Hey everyone, welcome back, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at loading styles, or rather even using styles in our project. So let's go ahead and step into our hello world view component, and let's actually just npm run build dev. So now that our server is currently running, let's go ahead and open up in Chrome. And let's take a look. So this is our application as we left it. Pretty simple, nothing too complicated yet. So as you know, these single file components you can put in, if you don't know, now you do know, you can basically use a style section to specify the styles either for this component or global styles. But generally you tend to specify scoped styles, so your styles are locked to this component. So for now, let's try to do something without it. So what we want to do is we want to take this div and let's say we just want to paint it red. So div, and we want to say color red. Okay, save this, and if we look to the console, big error comes up, right? So there is not much information here, but basically it says, all right, I don't know what this is, dude. So let's stop our server here and let's just quickly go over what is happening here. So what is saying is, because we're using Webpack to load these files, so we have this view loader. So essentially Webpack is taking care of taking this view component and turning it into JavaScript. And part of this view component is now CSS. So Webpack needs some kind of tool to convert these styles into JavaScript. All right. And for this, we will be using npm install view style loader. So this is a package that allows you to load basically to recognize the style tag and to load styles in these single file components. All right. And the next thing we want to do is CSS loader, right? So you can you can install multiple packages in one command. So just list your packages, separating them with spaces. So I want to install them in my development environment. And while they install, basically CSS loader is something that allows you to load CSS specifically. So view style loader allows the view loader to recognize that this style component is going to be working for styles, and CSS loader allows us to load CSS. Okay, so let's go ahead into our Webpack config now, and let's write a rule to load these styles. So comma, open subject, and let's say test, and what we want to test is .css and ending. So we want to test for files that end with CSS. Next, we want to specify loader, and this is going to be an array. And in here, we want to say view style loader, and then we want to specify what do we want to load. And so at the moment we're just loading CSS, so CSS loader will do. Okay, so let's do npm run build dev. Okay, after this has spun up, let's go to our site, let's refresh, and now we can see that all text on the index page is red, and on the about page also red. So if we go into the hello world view component, and now we add a scoped attribute, we can see that on the index page only the div inside the component is painted red. All right. Now, what else can we do with this style loader, or even loading styles? What are our possibilities basically? And if you've installed Vtour, this is actually, I probably should have mentioned it earlier in the tutorial, but basically Vtour is a VS Code extension that provides you with a lot of formatting, code snippets, like all of it. Basically, it helps your Vue development environment. It provides you with all these great features. And basically this right here, so when you type in styles and .vue files, it provides you with these code snippets, and you can see that it provides these code snippets for having so style with CSS scope. So if we use this one, it will essentially scaffold this thing here. And if we type in style and we take with less, it will assign this lang less. So what is this lang less? Essentially, there is if you're unaware, essentially there are CSS preprocessors. So it's basically CSS on steroids. You write some a funky CSS, and then it translates it into regular CSS. All right. So not to dive in too deep into them, I'm gonna go ahead and specify lang stylus. Right. This is one of the preprocessors, and you can see I more or less get the same error that I used to get before. Okay. So let's get out of here. And what we want to do is npm install stylus and stylus loader -d. So we want to install this in our development environment. And if you're using what's called SAS or less or post CSS, it will be the same npm install CSS SAS loader or post CSS post loader. I recommend not using more than one, so you want to limit yourself to one CSS preprocessor. Okay, so once that's installed, let's quickly go into our package.json and let's just take a look at what we have. So CSS loader loads the CSS. Okay, cool. Stylus and stylus loader. Okay, so stylus basically is the preprocessor. So this is what's going to convert the stylus syntax into CSS. And stylus loader is basically what allows Webpack to actually manipulate those files. We have our Vue styles loader, which basically, again, loads these styles in our .vue components. Cool. So now that we have that, let's go into our Webpack config. And instead of .css, what we want is we want to specify style or us. So stylus, and this basically saying at the end, this is optional, because right here we specify language stylus, and this is basically the template, and we want to either scan for this name or a style, because style ending tends to be basically the de facto way for stylus files. And at the end, basically here, we would just want to specify stylus loader, save, and now let's run this. Alright, basically you also want to spell this correctly, so actually stylus loader. Let's run this again. Okay, nice. So now if I go to my page, I refresh it, it still works. And if you go to your extensions, I am using for stylus, I'm using language stylus, so this is basically language support for stylus, and Manta stylus supremacy extension, which is the formatting. So now if I go here and I format my code, it basically formats it. So it removes all the curly brackets, semicolons, and colons. So really, you get only the words. All right. So let's actually go ahead into our file directory, and for the source folder, I want to create a new folder, and I want to call it styles. All right. And in here, let's say I want to specify a main style, or if I type in stylus, you can see the icon changes here for a brief time, but basically .style or stylus, and you can have .css, .cs, yep, I mean .css, sass, scss, less, right? So again, depending on which CSS preprocessor you use, you will basically have to install that preprocessor loader. So just to give you an example of what stylus can do, so primary blue, so here I specify a variable and I assign color blue to it, and I basically say span and background, and I want to say green. Okay, and let's go to our hello world, and in messages here, where we display our message, I want to make a span, not that, just a span mate. Never mind, span. There we go, and let's just say something. Okay, and now we can see that something is still red because we're not really loading this main style anywhere. So let's go into our component and let's import it here. Import. Exit this folder and let's go into styles and main. So for when you load stylus files, you don't need to specify .style. You can, but you don't need to. All right. And now you can see we're basically coloring in our span. What else we can do is we can use any variables defined here in this scope, and this is going to be true for any basically CSS preprocessor that you're going to use. So again, let's just go to span, color, and I'll say primary, and you can see that it's changed to blue. So this is it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll try to answer them all. And as always, see you in the next episode.